Hey guys, this is Sports with Dylan, and today we'll be discussing 3 potential trades in the NHL. First off today, I'll be speaking about the Blue Jackets' star defenseman, Seth Jones. Seth Jones, as I just stated, is a star, and the Blue Jackets have always been good around him. They make the playoffs annually, never get past the second round. Sort of like the Vikings in the NFL. That is until this year, when they collapsed. Ironically, so did the Vikings. But I'm not speaking about the Vikings. Anyways, you could attribute it to the fact that John Tortorella is a hardcore coach. And hardcore coaches always get fired. Almost, at least. Because they do well for a bit, then the players stop listening to them. And then they don't do well. Then the coach gets blamed and gets fired. Happens so many times. Like, John Tortorella was a pretty good coach. He's won Stanley Cups before. But it happens every time. He's been fired more than a lot of good coaches in the NFL, just because of his style. You could also attribute the reason why the Blue Jackets weren't doing well is the fact that they traded Pierre-Luc Dubois away to the Jets for Patrick Laine. Now, at the beginning I thought it was a bad trade for the Jets, because a couple years ago, Patrick Laine was the best Jets player. Then they traded him away this year, and I was not happy about it. But Pierre-Luc Dubois did better on the Jets than Patrick Laine did on the Blue Jackets. Way better. So now the Blue Jackets kind of have to rebuild, because they tied with the Red Wings for last in their division. The Detroit Red Wings. Yeah, I'm with you. It's crazy. The GM even stated that they're going through a rebuilding phase now. And a rebuild means you're going to trade away your best players, which includes Seth Jones. Now, Seth Jones could go to virtually any team in the NHL. There's little to no clarification about what teams he wants to go to, what teams want him, what teams would be good for him. You'll find that's the case about the other 2 players on this list as well. There's only a couple teams I can safely say I don't think Seth Jones will go to, and that's rebuilding clubs. So, Devils, Red Wings, Senators, Sabres, Kings, Ducks, Sharks, and Coyotes. None of those teams will really want a star player that's aging, because they're not in win now mode, and he wants to win. It's like trading Matthew Stafford to the Texans, or Julio Jones to the Lions. But there are a couple interesting teams. First off, the Edmonton Oilers. Maybe I'm just saying this because I'm an Oilers fan, but I do have a good case. Seth Jones' brother, Caleb Jones, plays for the Oilers. Yeah, that's pretty much my whole case. Might want to play with his brother. The only other thing, though, is Ken Holland, the Oilers GM, said, "We are going to make a splash in free agency." So, technically, Seth Jones isn't a free agent, but maybe it counts. I mean, he would be a good replacement for Tyson Barrie if he has to leave. The Oilers do seem pretty well set up now, but we could use some help on defense. We need a goalie more, but I can't say no to a Seth Jones trade, even if it means not getting Tyson Barrie back. Some of the other teams I can point out are the Canadiens, because they're so close. Sorry to all the Canadiens fans and basically every Canadian, but currently as I'm filming this, it's 3-0 Lightning in the series, so I'm getting a bit worried. And the Canadiens, though, are so close. If they're in the Stanley Cup final, I get one of the teams had to make the quarterfinals, which won't be the case this coming year. But if they're so close, imagine if they got a defenseman like Seth Jones. Now, another possibility I saw that was a bit weird is a Mitch Marner for Seth Jones trade. Now, I can't see that happening, to be honest, because like Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews have so much chemistry. And now we're taking away the Leafs' best player and throwing in a good defenseman, but it's the Leafs' second best player who does so much with Matthews. I mean, Tavares is getting older. Nylander will not be anywhere close to Marner's level. So, you're just taking away part of their offense. I think that would be a bad move by the Maple Leafs. I think it would be great for Columbus. I mean, they'd probably prefer picks, but like Marner is quite good. He could be he's better than plenty of players. Stick him on the Flames, he could arguably be the best player. It's tough there. Anyways, I'm not just gonna speak about Canadian teams that might want Seth Jones. A couple other teams are the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers did, by the end of last year, they were doing amazing. I mean, and at the beginning of this year, it carried on. And then they fell off a cliff. They finished second last in their division, behind the Rangers. Oh wait, no, sorry, third last. Devils and Sabres were obviously behind them, but still, not so good. Now, the GM and fans are hoping it was just a down year, because they're a team with a lot of potential in the future. So, they have a really, really good young goalie in Carter Hart, and a good offense as well. So, if they got Seth Jones, that could just be that one more piece. As I said earlier, most teams are interested in Seth Jones as well. Maybe not like the Lightning or Bruins, who don't really need another player. Next off today, I'll be speaking about one that might surprise you a bit. Matthew Tkachuk. Now, this one actually surprises me as well, because yes, I'm an Oilers fan, so I don't like the Flames. So it might surprise you that I'm saying this, but the Flames aren't a bad team. I mean, Johnny Gaudreau's going into free agency. If they re-sign him, they have him and Matthew Tkachuk, who are both quite good. They're missing a couple of pieces, but I'm surprised they didn't do as well this year. I thought they would have done better. So, I don't see why Matthew Tkachuk would want a trade, because unlike the other two teams on the list, it's not like the Flames need to rebuild. In fact, if the Flames could get Seth Jones or something, they would be a good team again in playoff contention annually. Kind of like the Blue Jackets were. Not amazing, but yeah, I could see them doing quite well. And though, if you think about it, if Johnny Gaudreau does leave, Flames still aren't a terrible team, but then I'd put them, of all the Canadian teams, I'd put them second last in the power rankings, below the Canucks. But if Matthew Tkachuk also got traded, Ooh, then it might be tough who's worse, them or the Senators. Just kidding, it's definitely still the Senators, but I'm surprised that Matthew Tkachuk would want to trade because he's not playing for a bad team yet. Now, he himself hasn't come out and officially said that he wants a trade. It's been the writers, primarily, at Sportsnet. For example, Shane O'Brien was the one that first said that Matthew Tkachuk might want to trade. Now, you can look at this in two ways. Either Matthew Tkachuk wants to trade because he just wants out of Calgary. Just doesn't want to be on a not so amazing team. Which, then you don't like him. Or, you could look at him as he's saying, I'm not going to re-sign with Calgary. You guys, if you trade me now, you'll get something from me, instead of letting me walk in free agency in a couple of years. So, yeah, it's tough to say which he is thinking. Now, couple landing spots for him. One is St. Louis, the Blues, because he was born and raised in St. Louis, so he might want to go back there. And again, I don't think, like, if he just wants to trade to St. Louis, then no, he shouldn't be traded, because it's just kind of picky of him, just to want, hey, I don't want to play in Calgary, I want to play where I grew up. Like, it's not really supposed to be the player's choice. Well, it kind of is, but you get what I'm saying. Anyways, another place could be the Philadelphia Flyers, because pretty much just copy and paste everything I said about Seth Jones on here, and yeah, you'll see what I mean. Because, yeah, they're a good team, then they didn't do so well, so now if they got some extra pieces, they could do well again. That's the whole thing in short. Another team is the New York Rangers. Now, New York Rangers already have multiple good players, like Alex Lafreniere and Artemi Panarin. I don't think I pronounced that right, but anyways. But they're so close to making the playoffs. Not really, but they're close. And with normal divisions coming back, then I think they could make the playoffs. But if they got that one extra piece in Matthew Tkachuk, then yeah, I could see them being a playoff contender, maybe even a cup contender. We'll see. The only other team I can think of that might want to trade for him is the Senators, because, well, he would want to go there because his brother plays there, Brady Tkachuk, but I'm not so sure. If he's not happy in Calgary because they're not doing well, why would he want to go to Ottawa? Yeah, that doesn't really make any sense whatsoever. Last off today, we will be talking about Jack Eichel. Now, when you're talking about a bad team, there's one team that's worse than the Coyotes, worse than the Senators, worse than the Red Wings. Yeah, I'm talking about the Buffalo Sabres, obviously. The Buffalo Sabres are just sad. They never can do well. I mean, this year, they had Eric Stahl, Taylor Hall, hey, that rhymes, and Jack Eichel. And they still did terribly. End up, obviously, trading away Stahl and Hall. Still rhymes. Anyways, now, I think they should trade away Eichel. because they could get a couple of good picks for him, and then that would increase the speed of their rebuild, because they're not going anywhere in the next couple of years. So wouldn't it make more sense just to trade away Eichel as well? Now, there's a couple of teams that might want Eichel. The Rangers, firstly, seem quite interested in him. To be honest, I don't really know why. Probably same reason as Matthew Tkachuk, but do they really need another player that style? I'm not so sure. Another team is, you guessed it, the Philadelphia Flyers. Again, what I said about Seth Jones. Another team is the LA Kings, because the LA Kings have a young and rising roster, and then if you throw in a star player in that roster, then you've got maybe not quite a playoff contender yet, but you've got a team that's quickly rising and going to be a playoff contender and eventually a cup contender in the next 5 years, kind of thing. Now, I saw two other teams I thought were kind of funny on a list. They're the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Calgary Flames. Now, I can't see either of those happening, especially if Seth Jones and Matthew Tkachuk get traded. Because why would you want to leave a bad roster for a slightly better team, but still not very good? Yeah, I don't see why anyone would want to do that. So, those are the 3 potential NHL trades. I had to rank them in likeliness of happening. I'd say first, Jack Eichel, second, Seth Jones, and lastly, Matthew Tkachuk. I don't think Matthew Tkachuk's going to get traded overall. But we will see. This off-season is coming quite quickly. So stay tuned. I will give you updates about all 3 of these players. Thanks for watching.